the North Collaborative is here today as well. So we are typically not joined together because distance separates us, but in this virtual space, we decided to try it out together this year and expand those that we're networking with. So there's two of us on today. The first is myself, and I work with the South Collaborative. It's the ones in orange on the screen. And then Karen Schulte, who works with the North Collaborative. So our goal today is really just to connect you with one another and to have a conversation about some things that are happening this year, things that are going well, share some successes, so that hopefully we can learn great things that are happening with one another. In past years, we have documents that have kind of contained resources that you've shared. We just condensed those into a schoolhouse. If you were in the presentation for today, you will have a link to that. And that link just takes you here, and you can click on any of these, and different resources, generally speaking, 3 resources that we've shared are available here. You can certainly, and we hope you do, connect virtually after today. We've set up a Google Classroom that contains resources and other things that might be helpful, as well as a Facebook page. So we invited most of you to this Google Classroom. And you'll see in here some different recordings that are kind of professional development that you might be interested in, as well as today's PowerPoint. And some other things, like there's a resource there. So we just have to get us started, but if there's anything you want to share, we'd love to have you share it there. I am getting a tiny bit of feedback, so we might need to do this. Yeah, just want to say, I think it is I think I'm coming through back on someone's screen. So we do want you to talk in today's session. That's really kind of the goal. So if on the bottom of your screen, there's a little microphone, and just to help with the muting or any echoing that might happen, you want to mute yourself when you're not speaking. There's also a camera icon on the bottom of the screen. We all, if we can, we want to see one another. It's also helps, and I realize right now it's kind of me speaking, but it also helps to be able to have a better conversation if we can anticipate when the next person's kind of ready to share. And then there is a chat feature in Blackboard, some double arrows at the bottom right-hand side of the screen that you can do to open that chat feature. So right now, we're going to test that chat feature with a little quick warm-up. So again, you want to open the chat feature by clicking on the bottom right-hand corner. And if you want to pick an emoji that describes kind of how you're feeling today, and if you want to enter that emoji and your school district in the chat. Now, there are a lot of emojis. You're going to have to click on the drop down there to kind of get the whole list. So I'm feeling big smile today. Big guy. I also always really like, yeah, that's a good one. Thanks, Carla. I always like the one with the sunglasses too. but I feel a little bit intimidated sometimes. I feel like he's a little cooler than I am. So I don't know why all of these make me laugh, but they do. Thanks for picking those. Hope to hear as we kind of talk more out loud too about how you're feeling, how things are going, and connect so we can share great ideas with each other. So we have kind of put together different things that you put in from registration. And we'll kind of go through those and talk about those, but this really is meant to be a discussion and really kind of connect and talk to one another. So we might use different features of our program here throughout the day, just because we really want to maximize the time we have together to really have some nice conversations. So I'm going to kind of put up a whiteboard here, and I don't know if you can see the screen or not, but when you have the whiteboard, you can type things in. So I'm just wondering kind of what are you using for online teaching this year or to engage online with students? I know I saw from registration. And then what's kind of working well with that? So I saw from registration that a lot of you were using Seesaw, some of you were using Google. Now, what are you doing this year for online teaching? And again, you should just be able to kind of click with the text and type right in. Or if you want to get fancy, I think you can draw with a pencil, but that seems a little hard to me. I really should have said with students and families, but now I'm having a hard time going back. Yeah, today we met with preschool and some preschool teachers, and some of them said as well that they were using Facebook to connect with parents. See another Seesaw. Red Rock, and I think they're using Facebook and Google. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So that was kind of a common thing of folks that had shared out different things that they were using. And Seesaw seems like it's getting some good reviews. I'd be curious to just hear from a couple of you about how things are going with Seesaw.
I'm at KMS, and I absolutely love Seesaw. It has been super easy as far as when we have students out, sending them assignments, and there's tons and tons of assignments and lessons that already have been created. So you save so much time. Like today I read a story, there was an old lady who swallowed a bat, and then I looked it up, and there was like a sequencing activity. So I quick assigned it to all my students, and then after lunch, their job was to put it in order, all of the things that she ate in order, and the kids just love it. So I have nothing but awesome things to say about Seesaw.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? Seesaw. And a couple of you said Google. So how are Seesaw and Google working out for you?
We're using Seesaw too, and our computer teacher has actually been doing a lot of teaching our kids with the different activities. We got one-to-one tablets, so they're doing it on their tablets this year, and it's going really well. They're catching on very easily to all the different things that you can do with it. You know, as far as like taking pictures for responses and, you know, writing, they can use their fingers to write on the tablets and things like that. So it's working out really well.
Great, thank you. Heidi and Sarah both talked about using microphones this year. And I see both of them are not yet, haven't had a chance to join us. So that is probably, is anyone else using a microphone this year in the classroom?
Yes, I am.
I am too.
How is that helping?
When I'm masked, especially, it just helps them hear better. And like the first few days of school, I just brought it everywhere with me, even into the hall, because they really need a lot of direction in those first couple days. So it was like good to have a big voice behind my mask and something they could hear. As we've gotten like more into the year and they're just used to like responding to my voice, they don't use it as much, but it still is helpful with the mask.
Anyone else? How has that been going in terms of using that microphone? Carla, I saw you mentioned you're using one as well.
So Haley, are you using like an additional microphone, or are you talking about like a microphone that's hooked up so the rest of your distance learners can hear you?
So I only am doing in classroom right now. And so, yeah, my microphone is just for in the classroom. It's just like a headset and the microphone goes up by my mouth and then it's a speaker that I can wear around my neck.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I just am using, I still have a hearing impaired microphone in my classroom. And so it helps project then the rest of my classroom as like a speaker. And then we have these special snowball microphones, I guess. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. I hadn't before, that are installed now into our ceilings by our tech guy. And so then it projects then to my distance learners that are at home. So it just kind of helps my whole classroom and then the online learners be able to hear a lot better. And I find that especially with a mask, and I also will wear a shield as well, it just helps a lot.
I do know that some of the schools within the South Collaborative have contracted for distance learning, so they have a company doing their distance learners or working with their distance learners, and you know they would just be working potentially at home with kids who are in isolation or quarantine. Before I'm going to kind of move to talking about some of the things you all wanted to get some input on from your colleagues today. And one of them was pretty, I highlighted it because it kind of came up a few different times, and that is small groups. So just going to ask a question here. So you should see a poll come up at the bottom of your screen, and just want to take a moment to do that. Are you currently working in small groups? Yes or no? We can kind of see the responses there. About half and half right now, working in small groups. So I'm kind of going to put people on the spot just to get us started. But Ivy, Jan, Carla, all three of you kind of talked about working in small groups. So, and or we're wondering how that's been going with people. So just kind of curious to hear more about things you'd like to hear from others about small groups.
Well, in In my classroom, we're currently using small groups for center time, but we're just transitioning into that next piece in Daily 5 where I'll actually start having kids work with me at my teacher table, and that will be hopefully within the next week or so. But I just didn't know, my question on there was kind of, how are people, when we went to distance learning last spring, and if we were to do that here soon or sometime this year, how will you transition, or how did you transition that to an online setting? I felt like we lost so much in that piece, and we couldn't really figure out how to make it work, and I didn't know if anybody had any ideas going forward with that, because I think our small lessons are working well here. It's just that online piece is where it gets tricky.
So my plan, if we have to go to that, is that I would do some large group things, and then kind of to give them a break, I might just do like a 20-minute session with each of my small groups, and then as I'm doing that session, then the others can log off and take a little break. So they'd get maybe like I don't know, if I had 4 groups and did each one for 20 minutes, say, they would get like an hour for a break then. Or maybe a chance to work on some of their own individual work that you sent home or something like that.
So are you teaching like your whole groups on Zoom? If you
I
were
would. Yeah, that's my plan. I haven't tried yet. I guess I don't know if it's going to work, but that's my plan.
Because I know we've talked about, what if some kids, if they're not home? I mean, what if they're not able to Zoom during your live sessions? Do you also then have to teach lessons or activities on Seesaw? Let's say some kids, just different home lives could look different per family.
Right. And one of the nice things about Zoom is that you can record your session. So I guess better than they could,
Right.
watch the fact.
Anyone else have any ideas around what you might do if the need arises with small groups, if the need arises to transition into distance learning?
I just had a thought. I wonder if if you did small groups and you use Zoom, Zoom, you have the ability to do breakout rooms. The hard part is that you're not necessarily in the same room monitoring them, but then that would keep them from having to log off, because I'd be afraid I'd lose my students, to be honest. But does Google Meets have that capability? I don't know as much about that one, if anyone's using that.
Karen, I believe it does have a similar capability in terms of breaking them into the breakout groups. Another kind of common theme that folks talked about here is handling the distance learners and in-person learners. So there's a couple of people who kind of talked about that. And like I said, I recognize that some of you have contracted out for that distance learning piece, but you still might have some potentially at home due to quarantine or isolation. So how are you kind of juggling having some of your learners in the classroom and some of your learners not in the classroom?
I guess sorry, go ahead.
Okay. One thing that I have found really helpful is there's like a 30-minute chunk of time where we do like our phonics and our phonological awareness and some writing. And I've just had him Zoom with us, and that way the kids can see him, he can see the kids, and he's doing what we're doing, and it's not like a separate time where I would just be calling him and talking to him or doing things with just him and I. And so that has worked really well, and I know the kids love seeing him each day, and he likes seeing them too. So
Yeah, I've done something similar as Nicole. I'll have my Chromebook like next to me with my distance learner on there, or if I've had other students in quarantine like that are also on there at the same time. And then I try to schedule so that when I'm doing my rotations, she'll be on there, and then I kind of position her at my small group table with all of them one space apart so that she feels like she's there with the other kids and the other kids can see her face and reacting. And then I've been sending home some of the little books that we'll be working on. I don't think I can do that forever just in case all of us had to go home. I can't send home all those small books. But I try to schedule it that way and that's been working pretty well. And I agree like with Nicole, the kids really like feeling like she's there and she feels like she's there with us too.
So I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
When we were distance learning last spring, I did small groups with my class. That's one of the ways that I met with them on Zoom last spring, and I did a lot of the printout ones, and we sent those home in their packets so they could just keep them and even have them at home to kind of read with their parents too. So that's an alternative to sending home all your classroom materials, I guess. Just print out some of those little emergent readers.
Can I ask you guys, do you have a digital version of those small readers available with your curriculum that students could access that way or not?
I think so, but I'm not quite sure how to have the kids access them yet.
Karen has worked with curriculum purchasing a bit. Can you guys tell?
Well, I just remember that our educational learning centers have Benchmark, which has a digital platform, and all those readers are there. The only thing that teachers need to do, though, is they need to set up the class with each student, and they can import a class name, but then you can assign them to them, and then they can access all of those wonderful resources that they have. But again, I just wondered if you had newer platform, newer curriculum, or if it's older, then it might not have that ability, but something to maybe look into perhaps.
I know some of our teachers have been using Epic a lot because you can assign books and have the kids read them, and then it tells the teacher exactly how they do, or they can record themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great resource for that too. Heidi, I think Heidi is in a classroom right now, and I get that sense because I saw her on for a second with a mask. So I'm still going to ask her question because.
Hi, I'm here.
I thought you're probably in a classroom with kids, so that's why. So you had asked about kind of
I'm hiding
keeping
in my storage room.
Oh, perfect. So you'd asked about kind of keeping masks on and social distancing. So tell us a little bit more about that and why you'd like, where you'd like input from folks.
It's an absolute pain in the ass and a headache. Is there a filter?
I don't think there is on a live session, so.
It's my new one line. Pull your mask up. Put your face shield on. I just didn't know if anyone had a solution, but I'm sure there is not one.
We had someone donate little 3M hooks that we hooked on the side of our students' desks. So when they are working quietly, we say you can have a mask break because they're already distanced out in our classrooms. So I feel like since we give them, if nobody's talking in my room, I give them a mask. And then I feel like when I do ask them to put it back on, they're more willing to not play with it and keep it up because I've given them that specific time. And even if I do give them something to work on quietly, they'll ask, can we have a mask break? So it's something that simply nobody's talking, they're already distance out. I feel like maybe it's more of an incentive to keep it up if they wear them. It seems to be working. So,
Our policy in our classroom, hold on, let me shut my door. We're doing the penguin dance in there. Our policy is we have to have our mask or face shield on at all times in our classroom. There's no break. Unless you're drinking or eating. So, yeah, it's rough.
I do lots of pride points when I catch them with them on. My class has been pretty good. We did like our first day was like 1,000 videos on how to wear your mask and why you wear your mask. So they're really good, and they'll call each other out like, put your mask back on. So and so's mask isn't over their nose. And so I feel like that, just kind of education really helped with my kids because they know why they need to do it, and then they're kind of sticklers on it. So that helped. I feel like, but I have an excellent class this year. I can't use them as a real example because they're like a class sent from heaven to me. So sorry.
Deserve it.
I was using like tickets at the beginning of the year, like I had done in previous years, but I recently switched to Class Dojo. I don't know if any of you guys have used it before, and then so that it's completely contactless, then that I'm not having kids touch tickets and all those things. And the Class Dojo I'm really enjoying right now because all I do, I can download it on my phone as well. And so I have it pulled up on my computer that has the surround sound speakers in our room at all times. And so then sometimes they'll just hear a little ding and they'll look around the room and they'll like figure out who it was that was maybe pulled up their mask over their nose or whatever. And then same with my distance learners at home is that I can reward her and she knows that the rest of the class also knows that she was doing a nice job about something, if that makes sense. So, and they like their little monsters and stuff too. But it's just right now it's an audio cue that someone in the classroom has done something well. So.
Yeah, I use Dojo too. I think I need to start actually docking points for not wearing a mask, and that might help us out.
How has social distancing been going for you? Okay, or same struggle as masks?
For me, oh my God, there's no such thing as social distancing. And there's so many kids in this room. And I have a new one starting on Monday. Oh my gosh. It's crazy.
Well, in our PowerPoint for today, I did put in a link to 10 different social distancing videos. There's a moose in there, and that moose is like one of the funniest people I've ever met, and he's an animated character. So I don't know if any of those would be helpful, maybe not, but just thought I'd put it out there in case. So Carla, you kind of talked a little bit about in yours, engaging in play together, like some STEM activities. You maybe want to talk a little bit more about that, Carla?
Sure. I guess like some of the research that I've been looking at online about whether or not kids can play together. I mean, the early childhood, the 3 and 4-year-olds at our school are still engaging in play together. And to my understanding, it seems like it's okay still with the 5-year-olds as long as, so like beforehand, I say, you have to put hand sanitizer on. And if I catch you touching your mask or your mask isn't over your nose, then you're going to have to go back to your desk and work on that worksheet or whatever. And they hand sanitize before. There's only 3 to a group. They can't move from that group then, unfortunately. But they've really gotten in the routine of it. And then afterwards, they hand sanitize. And then I also have like a quick sanitizing spray that I will spray down the toys. But that's something that I just feel like I'm really struggling with is not being able to have kids engaged in team building or STEM activities together. I feel like that's something that they're really losing out on in this generation right now. So I don't know if you guys have any ideas or what you have been doing, or have you just kind of been sliding by the rules and letting them maybe do some of those things maybe that were, I don't know what the research is also saying though about whether or not they can be playing together this closely or not. So until someone tells me no, I'm gonna keep doing it. But I have lots of hand sanitizer and they have to wear their masks and all those things. So I don't know what any of you guys are doing, but yeah.
We've been told, as far as doing like small group things together, as long as the kids have their face mask on and they're not together for longer than 10 minutes or 15 minutes because exposure, that they can work in a small group. So I don't have a lot of room in my room to do small groups. We just kind of partner real fast and then break. But I had to put most of my toys and most of my stuff into storage, so I had room for kids 6 feet apart.
Yeah, I got rid of most of my toys that were not like non-porous or whatever. Like there's very few toys that I'm allowing them to play with, and also for the room to get rid of, to be able to have them be spread apart.
Anyone else in terms of what you're doing and letting them play and letting them interact and maybe some of those engaging activities that you might have done in past years in groups?
We've done, well, it hasn't worked this week because it's snowing, but we've done a lot of our things outside that we've typically done in small groups like that, and we've brought some of our different toys outside already to kind of work that way. And then, yeah, we just do a lot of outside. Everything that used to be free play in our room in our class is now outdoor free play.
Does anyone have any gym space available? You know, now that it's cold and there's snow on the ground, does anyone have that available at all? Or are those spaces being used?
Ours are all used for classrooms. Sorry.
We get the gym for about 20 minutes in the morning.
We have it for gym class every day, but not for let's go and race our cars and see how far they go. No, nothing.
Wouldn't you know that the year we really need a late fall, Mother Nature, right? Megan, you had kind of put in around being prepared for a sudden distance learning week.
Yeah, just wondering if anyone's got a good system on all of a sudden if we have to go to distance learning for 2 weeks, how to have things prepared. I mean, I was on maternity leave last year, so I kind of had good practice on it. So I don't know if anyone had any good tips or tricks on quickly putting things together.
I guess I bought a unit off of Teacher Pay Teacher of fairy tales and nursery rhymes, and I pulled like the books. So if I have to be gone all of a sudden for 2 weeks, like it's all in a binder. Hopefully a sub can walk in and pull that out and make something out of it. But as far as like if our whole class has to go, boom, I'll be swimming.
I got the same exact kit as you, Heidi, and I really like it. I kind of want to use it for when I'm here, but no, it's a really good resource for a sub if they needed to come in. So
Would you be able to type out the name for that in chat? The resource?
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I don't remember what it's called, but I can pull that up quick. Maybe.
Thank you. See, I did the thing of talking when I was not, I muted myself. See, I'm supposed to be facilitating. Nicole,
Can I add one? Oops, sorry. Can I add one thing on this? It's just something that I was in a group, or I was in a meeting with the principal, and that school had to very suddenly shut everything down for a week or two. And he said, the advice he would give to everyone is that to use the technology now if you're face-to-face with students in person, because that way you have to go distance learning. They're used to it and they know how to use it, and you've already kind of worked the bugs out. And I see nodding of heads there. Nicole's nodding her head, yes, yes. So yeah, if you can incorporate technology now, even if you're face-to-face, and have them use it right in front of them, even though you're in person, kind of help them learn how to do it, I guess, so that, I hate to say it, but transition quickly they can.
Nicole, you kind of talked a little bit about students being in one spot all day. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
yes, so in the past I've had like a big rug, and that's where we do our circle time, and then our like large reading and our large math. And now I just feel like they are constantly at their table spots and their desks, and it's a lot harder for them to focus when they're at their table spots. They're just looking everywhere. They're just not, when they were on the rug, they just had really me to look at, and they didn't have anything behind them, everything behind them they couldn't see. So I'm just kind of struggling with that. If anybody has some advice as far as that.
Anything that people have found successful that's working?
I know that everybody's setups are kind of a little bit different, so I don't know if this would work for you, but what I have, and everyone's spaces are different too, but what I have in my classroom is my rows of desks. I probably have them, I don't know, like 20 feet back behind, so then my kids that sit farther back, I keep my first 2 rows in their desks in the front, and then my kids that are in the back get to come up and sit on a spot in the front, like when I'm doing a story time or teaching, and then they just take their work back to their desks. So they're still kind of spread apart in the front, probably not their full 6 feet, but I figure like for most stories are like 5-10 minutes, our quick teaching lessons are like 5-10 minutes. So that's what I'm doing right now.
I've done the same kind of thing. Letting like part of them move to see from the back or the sides.
I had a crazy thought, you guys. Does anyone watch Dancing with the Stars? Anyone? No. Okay. I'll explain why I thought this. So Tyra, do you? Yeah, right. Tyra Banks was on last night, and it was villain night. So she's dressed up in this ginormous dress that looked like big bat wings coming out. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I'm wondering if you wear a silly hat or anything, would that focus your students' attention on you? Like to just, like, oh, it's reading time, she's putting on her reading cap, or I don't know. It was just a thought, just something silly but different.
That also sounds like Karen's volunteering to make this costume and deliver it to your classroom, Nicole. I'll have to look it up.
I'll take her.
I'll come on your board and read, no problem. Just having a different voice, right?
So we also asked you some questions just around kind of social emotional needs. How are you taking care of yourself? How are you taking care of students? And there's so many great ideas of things that are doing here, that people are doing, here. From Jack Hartman songs, read alouds on YouTube, Cuckoo Kangaroo, which I'm not totally sure what it is, but I feel like I need to know that because it sounds fun. So what has kind of been working to kind of keep everyone going and engaged, and that's both you and your students? We could all do a socially distanced dance break right now if that would help.
I liked someone's comment that said, like, when they're able to be done for the day, they just go and leave school at school. And I feel like this year I've left earlier than I've ever left any other year because I just have to. There's just so much going on with trying to meet the needs of the kids in the classroom and the kids, your distance learners. And I think that that's kind of a nice thing where, you know what, just you need to be done for the day. You did your job, and now it's time for you and your family. And so.
I agree. I've really tried to leave once school's done and my contract time is done. I've been making sure everything's laid out in case I disappear for some reason the next day. But I try to leave right on time because it's extra draining this year. So we gotta take care of ourselves too.
And along with leaving, I feel like it's just important to know that, this is just, we can call it the COVID year, and just know that everything's not going to be according to plan. It's not going to be like we've had it before, and we just can accept it and say in the future we'll go back to, doing it our perfect way that we had done it before. But this year is just kind of have to throw our hands up and say the best we can do is the best we can do.
Karen also shared with me earlier, right there, one really positive thing is that we got a lot more technology in some of the early childhood classrooms, right? Or not early childhood, I know, but we were talking, we had pre-K this morning, that's why I said that. But some of our elementary schools, we maybe got some more technology, so really positive thing, right? For future years as well.
We kind of, sorry.
Go ahead.
At the beginning of the year, I kind of kept saying in the back of my mind, these kids don't know any different. So they don't know that last year we did it differently than I might be teaching it now. So I try to keep that in the front of my head. Like, they don't know I'm not doing centers the same as I used to, or that Daily 5 looks different, or that they had tables last year, now we have 22 desks. So I think at the beginning of the year, I kept trying to say, like, they don't know it's different. They're just excited to be in kindergarten.
One thing I keep hearing again and again is how excited students are to be in school, not just kindergartners, but some of those students in the upper grades that were a little more apathetic towards school, perhaps before COVID hit. Now they are willing to wear their masks and to do things because they just want to stay in school. would have ever thought that that would have been a thing. So maybe a little silver lining there too.
A lot of you mentioned you're doing some sort of brain breaks, go noodles, dance breaks, other things like that throughout the day, socially distanced dance breaks. I love that you put that, Carla. That really cracks me up because I'm sure it's very true. How often are you all doing those sort of kind of breaking things up throughout the day?
I try to do it like twice a day. So right before our centers, and then right before our specials too. I try to get in a couple of songs and brain breaks.
I try to do them in the morning, just to kind of get them up and moving for the day. I try to incorporate them into our reading lesson, usually math lessons, and then today I ended our day with some too, just to review letter sounds and phonics. And so any kind of time I can feel like I can plug in a reason for them to stand up for 3 to 4 minutes is great.
So before we kind of look at a few resources and things available to you, I'm just curious, like, was there anyone else who had some things that you really were hoping to hear about today? The one thing that I noticed people put in that we maybe didn't talk about so much is in terms of any ways that kind of classrooms have adapted to COVID prevention, but I feel there is a lot of things we've talked about in that regard. So I guess I'm just curious if there's anything else you were kind of hoping to hear from other people, or curious, or really wanted to know what are other kindergarten teachers doing with this?
Yes. What are people doing with interventions and doing interventions online?
As far as online, I guess I haven't really been doing interventions. I've just been sending them work to do, just that kind of goes along with what we're doing in the classroom. But we do have an interventionist that's been pulling for the kids that are in school, in class.
Anyone else? What are you doing in terms of intervention for your students, particularly online, or if we think ahead and potentially predict some online time?
I guess we're still all in person, so our interventions are in person yet. I don't have any online tidbits to share.
I happen to be working on looking at some stuff for title, to be honest, for later on in a workshop, but I put a link in there that I found just today about, and I'll be honest, I haven't gone through them thoroughly. I just kind of did a real brief over, kind of skimmed through it, but it was 11 interventions you can adapt for distance learning. So maybe that might give you some help. I'm not sure. Again, I haven't, really gone into a deep dive into it, but it's there. I put the link in the chat if you're looking for a direction, and maybe if it's not right there, maybe it'll lead you to another direction that you can find.
Thank you. Thank you.
We did hope to share just a few. We want to try our best to share resources with you as well. So in the slides for today, slide 10 has, like I mentioned, this social distancing and this moose. He is really a funny guy. So, a few of you mentioned you shared a bunch of different social distancing videos as we were going, or to start the year, or mask videos. So here's just a link to those kind of resources. Lysol and CDC had a backpack for school, and there's some activities and other resources there. Both of these link directly to those. And I just mentioned that because if you are feeling like you need some reinforcement, here may be a few different resources that you could go back and check out. And Rachel Cox-Raverty has forwarded me onto this social emotional learning activities on centervention.com. So there's a bunch of free ones here. And I point this out because some of them, like, for example, this gratitude jar for kids, there's quite a few of them that really do lend themselves to a more socially distanced classroom. So there's a lot of different SEL skills in there as well that you can access for free. And I'm going to put Karen on the spot again to just kind of talk a little bit about this self-care for teachers resource.
Well, really the most important person in the classroom right now, you know, I'm gonna put this out there. It might not be your students, it might be you, because if you go down, that it has a domino effect of affecting every single student in your classroom. A lot of your districts don't have substitute teachers. We know that. And so you're already thinking in your head, okay, what if I go down? I heard you guys say that. So we don't want that to happen. We want you to be able to take care of yourself. So in this document, it has a bunch of links to it. And I realize we don't necessarily want to be on screen again. But if you want to take a look sometime when you have some free time, I think like if you click on the Kleenex box, it gives you some things for handling emotions. You click on the barbells down at the bottom left, it'll take you to some physical activities you could kind of, you know, promote good health. So there's quite a few of them. This was designed not by me, but someone who shared it with me. So when you click on the document, it'll kind of show you or tell you where things are linked. If you're like me and you don't necessarily like clicking all over and you just want to know where to go, the document itself will tell you that. Otherwise, you can just click on those and try them. I encourage you to share that with other people, this document. You might want to share it with your colleagues, just to kind of promote that waiting for you, because we really want to make sure that you are well taken care of. And I know when Carrie and I have talked to your administrators, that is something they are incredibly concerned about, is your well-being. You know, you really matter, and I know I've put that in my emails before. You are important, and I think we really need to make sure you take care of yourselves. So I really encourage you to find some outlets for doing that. And you guys have all mentioned a few already, so I'm glad to see that you're thinking about that, because we don't want to wear you out.
So, you know, if you in past years have come to a South Collaborative or a North Collaborative meeting, you would find some of this, find some networking, you know, talking kind of about things that you really want to hear from other people, see what they're doing. But we've also started to have some guest speakers or kind of a topic. So we're trying that as well. So any of these that you see on the screen are coming up in November. You are very welcome to join. But I should also say that, you know, if you can't join live, but you're really interested to hear more, for example, like if you want to know more about the ELA standards, you're like, oh, I haven't even thought about those new ELA standards yet. You could sign up, view it live, but you could also watch the recording. And, you know, those are all coming up, and we'd love to have you for any of them. As you all have found out, we have just started these sessions, and, you know, we talked with all of the administrators beforehand and are just really trying to to figure out what's gonna work best in this interesting, like you said, this year. So Karen just chatted in a link to a form on the bottom. And if you would, we are going to kind of do a little closeout with one another. If you could just it'll take you about a minute to go through and give us your feedback. We really do care about all of your feedback, meaning we want to know anything you think about times, dates, moving forward. Like, we want you to be as honest as possible because it'll really help us to think about what would make sense as we continue on this year. The most awkward part of online is that we don't know if you're done yet. I think you're done. You might not be done. Not quite sure. But we just kind of want to close out today's session by first off saying we really are truly, truly grateful that you chose to join today. And they're just wondering kind of one word, you can either chat or share out loud. It kind of talks about how you feel about today's session. So I am very, very grateful, really, truly very grateful that you chose to join us today and to share all that you know. It's just very, I'm very appreciative of you sharing your knowledge and expertise with one another. See, that was way more than one word, but the word is grateful. Anyone else willing to share one word or phrase? New, I like it.
My word is thankful. I just to kind of reiterate what Carrie said, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we truly will be looking at your feedback because you matter and your opinion matters and you are the driving force behind all of our professional development. So please know that your opinion really does matter.
Yeah, I also really appreciate when you guys share your opinions and what you're doing, because then I can take your great ideas and share them with other people. So I love that. All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us today. We, again, truly appreciate it. And I wish you a fantastic rest of your week.